In the end, the way that I look at it is the state's role is to help facilitate and help parents and kids deal with this new emerging technology that no one really knew how to deal with in the past. And I got involved in this at the very beginning when I had constituents reach out to me that were parents that said, I've done everything that I possibly can to try to help my kids on social media, and it's not enough. The algorithms are just too powerful. Kids are finding ways around any sort of protection that I put in place, and I can see the real harm that's happening to my kids. The state needs to do something, come in and help. And that's the perception, that's the lens that we've viewed this from the very beginning, is not trying to be overhanded. We want to see businesses thrive in the state of Utah. We want parents to be able to have control and help raise their kids. But at the same time, we see there are real harms that are happening, and there's time for the state to come in and put up those guardrails.
I would say it's a very difficult balance. I think you've seen red and blue states approach this slightly differently. You've seen the federal courts react differently depending on the circuit. A lot of open questions here. I think what we were trying to do in Colorado is just really focus in on child safety and really have the legislative effort focused on that. I am a tech guy by background. I'm an engineer by background. I love innovation and new technology. This is not anti-technology in any way, shape, or form, but it's really just saying we know there's a serious issue when it comes to kids' safety. Let's see what we can do together to address it. And it's also personal for me because I've got 2 teenage boys at home. So this is not some distant thing. This is something that we've been struggling with as parents, for years, and parents all over the country are struggling with this. What's the right balance for access, and what technology and what age should kids get technology, right? These are really tough questions for parents to answer. And I just think we need more systemic effort cooperating with the companies to make online safer for our kids.
You saw it in the bills that we passed here in Utah. We passed 2 bills, and paramount in one of them, Utah Senate Bill 194, was protections in privacy. And we really looked at it in 2 fronts. One was establishing that once social media companies know that they're dealing with minor accounts, then they should put on the highest default privacy settings to begin with to protect the minors. And those things include not having minor accounts visible to the general public, ensuring that they can only communicate with those that they're friends with. Those types of privacy settings allow real protections for minors. And then the second thing that we did is we also said that social media companies shouldn't be collecting data on minors, and they shouldn't be selling that minors' data. It's a $1 billion industry. There's a lot of incentive for these social media companies to do everything they can to engage with these youth and keep them on the platform. And paramount to that is being able to collect that data and sell it to other advertisers. And so if you cut that off in the beginning, there's more of an incentive for these social media companies to be good actors in this space.
And I think Colorado is among a handful of states that has already taken action on that. We have a Privacy Act in place here, building off some of the efforts in other states. California, of course, did a lot in this area. So I think we're really trying to build on that foundation. We've got those privacy protections in place. Now, what are we doing to make sure that kids don't have access to illegal guns or illegal drugs, or keeping too wide a door open for sexual predators, right? Those are the things that we know are happening online. And I feel like we just don't have the right protections in place. So yes, privacy, absolutely. And we've done a lot in that area. But now, how can we improve safety?
I think we've moved a little bit beyond that. I think when we first looked at the harmful impacts of social media, that's what people thought it was, that it was just cyberbullying. What we're finding more recently with the studies that are coming out is that it's a lot more than just the cyberbullying. That is a real harm that we need to make sure that we stop. But at the same time, the algorithms themselves that are causing the addictive nature to the teens on social media have as much harm, if not more harm, than directed messages at particular individuals.
There are statutory protections in place in several states on that area. I think we've tried to take just a very child-centered or human-centered approach to that and allow local officials and schools and school districts to tackle this at a local level, but make sure that there's a clear set of protections in place. So yeah, that is certainly part of this overall set of issues that we're dealing with. But I think you really see Colorado now focused in kind of on broader safety issues, especially access to illegal guns or drugs.
The way that I would describe it is just like when a minor wants to go to a trampoline park and play, what's the first thing they have to do? They have to get their parent to sign a waiver. And that waiver is going to tell them that there are inherent risks and harm if they engage in this type of activity. And so if anything, it's not so much to prevent minors to be able to use social media as it is helping the parents to understand that when their minors are engaging on social media, that they need to play a more active role, that this is a dangerous playground and there needs to be limits and guardrails. And so we want to make sure that they understand those risks going into it. One of the ways we handled that is in the bill that dealt with harmful algorithms, we established a right of action for parents to be able to bring a lawsuit against social media companies that are using harmful algorithms that have caused mental health damage to their minors. But we negotiated really closely with social media companies to create a safe harbor. And one of the requirements of that safe harbor was parental consent. And in essence, just like a parent that is waiving their right to sue a trampoline park, I thought it was important within that to have parents waive their right to be able to take advantage of this ability to sue social media companies if they know and understand the harms that are there.
I think the question is, can we provide the right tools for them, for the kids and the parents to figure this out together? And I think right now the answer is we don't have everything that we need. Utah went down this approach that was much more focused on parental verification and age verification. That was an element that we were looking at in Colorado. And I think having the platforms be very clear about their requirements and how they are planning to tackle that issue is super important for parents to understand. I had one tech company tell me, hey, we don't have anybody under 13 on our platform. They know that's not true. I know that's not true because my kids used that platform before they were supposed to. So there's some clear loopholes here that we need to address. And age verification and different versions of it are perhaps a set of tools that can be used. But that back and forth between parents, kids, and the tools that the tech companies provide, that's really what we're trying to sharpen.
One of the things that we did in this space is we empowered our Division of Consumer Protection to enforce the laws that we passed. We gave them the right to fine social media companies that weren't in compliance with the laws in Utah. We gave them the right to bring their own lawsuits to do that. And then, as I mentioned, we had the other bill that empowered parents. So if a parent is seeing that harm, then they can use the power of the courts to come after these social media companies. So I think between those two sides, both the regulatory oversight that you'd see with the Division of Consumer Protection, but also in the civil side, holding social media companies accountable to the harms that they have, it will force the social media companies to take more responsibility than what they have in the past.
Look, the Europeans have already done this. All these tech companies are already complying with the EU laws in this area that are much more stringent than what we have in the United States. But let's also think about the theory of change in the US. State laws lead to federal action. They always have. If you think about the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act, the privacy protections in place, they've typically started at the local and state level and then led eventually to federal action. And so I think the states have an incredibly important role to play in this. But I don't buy the argument that states can't or shouldn't do anything. And let's face it, the Europeans have already made big strides in this area on consumer protection and child protection statute and regulation. And the US needs to do better. And I'm a state legislator, so of course I'm going to be focused on the things that I can have input on. But I think if you zoom all the way out, we absolutely need federal action. That is elusive right now. I don't see Congress getting much done in the last few years. And so I think it's up to the states to push forward on this area. And that's exactly what we've tried to do in Colorado.